This week, the world lost one of the great comedic geniuses of our century in the death of Carl Reiner at age 98. He was a gifted actor, comedian, and writer. One of the things that I always appreciated about Carl was his ability to take the mundane, the ordinary, and make it memorable. Whether it was with a word, a skit, or simply an action. I mean, let's face it, how many of us still remember the opening of the Dick Van Dyke Show? No matter how many times we watched him trip over the ottoman, we always thought maybe this time he'd get around it. It has become an iconic moment. Unfortunately, Isaac, of biblical fame, didn't have Carl Reiner as a writer, or things might have been a little different. In reading the book of Genesis, Isaac is perhaps the most boring of all the characters that show up. In fact, at times I'm really wondering if he's not much more than a prop that moves the action forward. Today's story is a case in point. One would think that in the story of the marriage of Isaac and Rebekah, Isaac should play prominently, but he doesn't. Instead, it is his servant that takes center stage. The servant that was sent to the homeland to procure a wife for him because they didn't want to marry one of those foreigners in Canaan. He goes, and it is the servant that prays to God that when he gets to the well, the young woman who comes out, and when he asks her for a drink of water, will also offer to water his camels as well, that she be the one that is to be Isaac's wife. He goes to the well. Rebekah comes. He asks for a drink. She gives it and offers to water his camels as well. It will be the servant that negotiates with her and later her father for the possibility of being married to Isaac, his master. And it will be the servant that takes her back home to Isaac. And it will be the servant that introduces them. For when we get back home, Isaac is still on the sidelines. And Rebekah, fully veiled, is taken to him that she may become his wife. Hardly a romantic interlude. So why the story? Is it just to introduce us to Rebekah, who will take center stage in the drama to come? Or is there more to go on with this? As we look at the Hebrew scriptures, the image of marriage plays heavily, not only in these opening chapters of Genesis, but throughout the scriptures. We need to remember that this was collected and written down in a time of great crisis of faith for the people of God. They are in exile in Babylon. So they are searching for new ways to speak of their relationship with God. And one of those that becomes very prominent in this time is that of marriage and the covenant that is formed. It appears throughout this book of Genesis. It will continue in the prophets. We remember the poignant story of Hosea, who marries the prostitute, and she continues to be unfaithful, highlighting God's faithfulness in the midst of unfaithfulness. It will be in the later writings of the Hebrew scriptures, Proverbs, Psalms, Song of Songs, Ecclesiastes, that the image again will appear. Jesus uses the wedding feast as an image for the messianic banquet. And he does his first miracle at a wedding reception. And in the book of Revelation, we hear how the church is to be the bride of Christ. It is critical, particularly in the Hebrew scriptures, that we understand the passionate love that God has for his people, a love that leads him to form a lasting covenant, even in the face of our unfaithfulness. Unfortunately, Christianity runs headlong into Greek philosophy and Roman philosophy, and in an effort to gain legitimacy, they cave. Those philosophies eschew any passion or emotion. And so Christianity soon becomes passionate about their beliefs, but not so much passionate about their actions. And that is the faith that we have inherited these days. It's what makes it so very difficult for us in passionate times like these to be church, because we are not accustomed to speaking or to hearing the church speak passionately and to live passionately. One of the things that is very difficult is being pastor in these times. I am to lay aside all passionate beliefs and stands for the sake of the church. And that has been difficult. And I think not only for pastors, but also for all faithful Christians. What are we allowed to say? What are we allowed to do without stepping on toes or being co-opted for somebody else's agenda? One of the things I'm very passionate about these days is the wearing of masks. And because I wear a mask in public, I have been accused of being afraid. I've been accused of being political. I've been accused of being a leftist communist. I've been accused of caving in to the pressure from the press. I've been accused to yielding to an authority other than Scripture. I've been accused of having no faith in God. Those are all interesting observations. None of them are why I wear a mask. I wear a mask because I love you. And I cannot bear the thought that there is something that I could do that might contribute to your getting sick or, heaven help, die. And so I wear a mask, not as a political statement, but as a statement of my faith and my understanding of God. For it is the God who entered into covenant with me in baptism and with all of us through those waters that promises never to leave us abandoned, but also calls us to let our light so shine before others that they may see in us a glimpse of God, a passionate God who continues to pursue his people, even in the midst of the craziness that we experience. It is fascinating when one looks at the lives of the spiritual Christian mystics over the years. Down through the centuries, mystic after mystic goes back to the same book of the Bible as a meditative exercise. And that book is the Song of Songs. Warning, it is PG-13, if not R-rated. It is a love story, a passionate, very passionate love story. It is seen as a vision of God's love for his people, a love that knows no bounds and that will pursue us to the ends of the earth for his love for us. It is a love that will give all up and risk it all. We see that most clearly on the cross as he dies, signaling that there is nothing we can do to break the covenant of his love for us. In these troubled times, we might do well to meditate for a while on Song of Songs. Perhaps somewhere in that we may see not only the love that God has for us, but might be able to experience how we can share that love passionately in a way that unites rather than divides. How can we learn to love each other so that instead of slandering each other or yelling at each other, we learn to love each other? Take some time in the next week to take a glimpse at the Song of Songs. It may be quite enlightening. This is a day, Lord, gladly awaited. Thankful our hearts, Lord, joyous our praise. See here before you, to whom we cherish. Keep them beside you all of their days. Bless now their vows, Lord, sealing commitment. Deepen their trust, Lord, lovingly one. Working your wonders, knit them together, so nothing sunders, to become one. Sow in their hearts, Lord, seeds of compassion. Reap in their lives, Lord, care for your birth. May they encourage others by being signs of God's new age coming to birth. Hallow the years, Lord, they spend together, growing in love, Lord, as you intend. Freely forgiving, time without number, selflessly living, time without end.